Hi everyone, it's Miriam with a Y. In my last video, I told you I'd started doodling and I showed you how easy it was to draw this. After watching the video, lots of you have come to my Facebook group to show off your versions of this and beyond. It's been so awesome. It's been a fun virtual doodle-palooza in there. So today, let's tackle this. Now, believe it or not, this is pretty easy to draw too. The only difference between this one and this one is time. This one does not happen in 20 minutes. A bathroom break will likely be required. But let's tackle it. So get your pen and paper and let's do this. A piece like this can be started pretty much anywhere on your paper. In the middle, and you work your way out, along an edge, and you work your way in, or up in a corner, or down in a corner, and again, you work your way in, which is just for the heck of it what I'm going to do. But like I said, it doesn't really matter where you start. I'm drawing on a regular piece of copy paper, and I'm using a Pigma Micron 05, just so that you can really see. It's just a little thinner than like a Sharpie fine point, the ultra fine Sharpie. The difference between a Sharpie and one of these is that a Sharpie is dye-based ink, so it's going to bleed through your paper, but these are pigment ink, so they do not bleed to the other side. And also these are archival and waterproof and don't fade and all that good stuff. Okay, I will start with a scroll of sorts, something like this. And then, let's see, why don't we end it with a little bit of a curly Q, and I'm going to pick up a line alongside, kind of come down, and then taper it off onto the previous line, and I'll do that a couple of times. Now, I don't know if you see, like when I'm starting pretty much in the same spot, but I'm not necessarily ending in the same spot. Like this line ended here, but this one ended here. And by doing that, I'm creating sort of a ribbon effect. See, I'm going to end this one here. So this looks like a ribbon that's turning under. So I'm just going to show you different effects you can create depending on how you end your lines or where you start your lines. Okay, so for here, I am going to start a line, let's say here, and I'll come and meet the end there. This is looking like the front of a ship. That wasn't a plan. I don't have a plan. We're just going to draw and see where this takes us. And then I'm going to pick up the pen. I'm going to start my new line there. And these I do want to have come and start roughly where the one before started, and then but end in the same spot. So I don't need to start all the way up here, though I can. I'm going to scoop down, aim toward that spot there. I guess I could squeeze another one in, but I'm not going to. But I can kind of add some more this way. I'm going to straighten out and start curving the other way, so that now I will create a bit of a ball. And I am now starting roughly in the same spot, but definitely always aiming for the final spot there. And then, I don't know, up here, I could make sort of this shape, kind of like a leaf. Oh, you know what, since we've got a little spiral here, why don't we end this one over here with a spiral too? Whenever I make an element in something, like in this case a spiral, I always want to have at least a couple others elsewhere so that it doesn't look like this one was an accident. So even though we don't have a plan, you know, we want to kind of repeat elements so that everything kind of has some harmony. And then in here, I will fill in that way, and I'll stop there. Now, as you're building this, what I do is I ask myself, okay, what sorts of things do I want? Do I want a lot of ball type shapes? Do I want petal type shapes? Do I want ribbons? And I personally like a mix of all of the above, so I will aim for that. And where you start your next element doesn't really matter, as long as they're connected in some way. Part of the secret to the look of this is having a lot of lines that sort of converge in one spot so that you get these sort of dark spots like here and here already are, because it gives you the contrast and really pops off the page. And then having lines that run, well, not exactly parallel, but alongside each other. Those are the two things that really create the effect. So the shape that you create with your lines, that's where you get to be creative and take this however you want it to be. So I'm now, I don't know, I think I'll start another petal type thing here and do, and then if I want it to be wider, I just take, I can either just continue to grow it all on one side, or I can do it evenly on both sides. But I don't necessarily want it to be the same as this one, so I'm going to stop there. And here, I'm going to start something totally different. What I'm going to do here is start off with a little loopy like that. Zoom in, and then start again, starting my next line where the first one was and ending where the first one ended. I'm going to arc out and do that. And I'm going to keep doing that. Now, if you saw the video before this one, I had made sort of teardrop shapes and then filled it in with lines like this. But this time I'm not doing that. And the reason is because I want these to sort of spread out. And I don't quite yet know how far I want them to spread. So I don't want to make a border for them yet. So I am just growing them this way. And you see how my picking up a line where the prior one was and ending where the prior one ended gives me that ink concentration that really is part of the fun of this. And you can take this as far as you want. Now, if I keep going this, in this exact way, this, what I'm going to call a worm, I'll call this a ball, this a petal, this a worm, and this a ribbon, just so that we have terms to refer to each part. So if I continue going this way and growing and growing and growing and growing, I will, sort of expand, and I don't necessarily want any element to get that big. I might do maybe one more, but let's say I want it to start turning this way. So what I would do then is, rather than start here and do this, I will start, let's say, here and end, and then my next one will not start there. I'll pick it up here and end. And so now I'm starting to turn. And you can decide how far of a turn you want to make. So that's how you'd get that effect going. Let's see. Here, since this is going to be the edge, sort of the end of the piece, what I'd like here is to start adding some of my, what I call pebbles. That's an element that I like in these. So I just draw a bunch of little circles. And me personally, I like them to be all different sizes, but that, again, is a personal choice. So you might want yours to be bigger and all the same, or smaller and all the same. All of these decisions are where you get to have fun designing. Now, another design choice is I have all my little circles touching, and I could stop here, but because for me, one of the things that I like a lot are dark areas, I'm going to fill in the space between these guys, because that's going to make this area really pop and make these even more visible and more apparent. Now, when I decide that I've kind of come to the last pebbles, I sometimes give those a thicker border and then sort of taper what I'll call the mortar in between them. Can I make a small petal here? Maybe. I'll turn this into a bit of a heart. I've made sort of the beginning of a petal, but what I'm going to do on either side of that starting point of the petal is kind of arc this way, and then this one would arc that way, and then now I've got something that resembles a heart. And I can nest a couple of them that way. I'm not much of a heart person, so I'm not going to, but you can't. Well, okay, I'll do it just so you guys can see it, but I'm not much of a heart person. But if I do another petal, and then take one side over, and then take another side over like that, I will have nesting hearts. And I can continue to do that everywhere, but I'm not going to. In fact, I'm going to, now that you've seen the hearts, I'm going to make them not be hearts anymore. Because, I don't know, hearts just feel very pretty to me. Sometimes I don't need things to be super pretty, just, you know. Okay. Now, here, the buildup of the line here is a little sloppy, because I haven't been very good about bringing my lines back to this area. So what I can do is I can cheat a little. And this is something, if you're going to do it very, very gingerly. Don't be heavy-handed about this. But I'm just going to run my marker along this line just a little bit at a time, just to smooth out all of this. And now this looks a little neater. All right. Composition-wise, what should we do next? I am taking a look at this and deciding what I want to add. So here, like I said, I've done some pebbles here. So I'm thinking it's a good idea to put them someplace else. So I'm going to throw in a few over here. And like before, I will color in the space in between. Now you may find it easier on yourself to turn the paper sometimes to draw your next element. I do that a lot because my hand is happiest moving this way than moving that way sometimes. So if you have, especially if you have a long line to draw, definitely orient the paper in such a way that you'll be able to get the smoothest line possible. And I'm going to turn the paper now and then just to see, you know, what direction do I want to send my next element? Okay, so another thing that I like sometimes is at the end of one of these, I like a petal that's sort of nested into it. Something like that, because I like that. And now I want to sort of taper this guy down. Ooh, and what I'm going to do here, in this little space right here, is I'm going to start another one. It's going to look as if it's being squeezed by this one and this one. I kind of like that too. So as you start to build your elements, you'll kind of get a feel for what sorts of looks do you get based on what you do next. And then you can sort of create a plan based on that. So if I know I want some worms that are being squeezed, then I will make sure to set up things that will give me the ability to do that. What I'm doing is creating one here, and then I can create another one here. And then I know that whatever I put in between these two guys will kind of get squeezed right there. Yeah, it's probably silly how much I like those. To fill in the rest of the main body of the piece, I continued repeating elements, like starting with more petal-like shapes in different sizes that I would tuck in here and there. And then I decided I wanted to ground the piece with what I've been calling the little pebbles. I saw them as being able to support the weight of the piece, so I added a good number of them toward the bottom. I then turned my attention to the right side of this piece and kind of worked out how I wanted to fill in that area. The only real plan I had all along was that I wanted the right side to be, more airy than the left, so to have a little bit more negative space. So to that end, I chose to put in some ribbons with spiral ends because I do love any excuse to throw in some spirals. And if you can't spiral when you're doodling, I don't know when you can. So the ribbons are just long curly lines with spirals on the end. You can definitely draw those. And you can make them any length you like and send them in whatever directions you like. Okay, and then, because I'm a bad person, I made the other heart less heart-like also. I apologize to all heart lovers out there. I'm just not much of a heart person. Sorry. Next step, adding little tendril-like things for texture on the periphery. So some of them were like squiggly lines with teardrops, or in this case I decided double teardrops on the end, and others that were, I'm going to call them like grass-like tufts that I made just by flicking short pen strokes outward and then adding little dots on the end. I kind of like how these turned out. I think they're kind of cute. Finishing off the piece involved stopping periodically to see where I wanted to add little extras, like more pebbles or more tendrils, ribbons, or the little tufts with dots. The total fun of doodling, I think, is getting to draw whatever you like, wherever you like. Well, I mean, like on paper, not like on your walls. Well, you could, though, because some people actually doodle on their walls. I've seen videos of that are pretty cool. If you haven't picked up a pen and tried this yet, I really, really encourage you to give it a go. And when you do, definitely come and show off what you've done in my Facebook group. We're an amazingly supportive, accepting bunch, so no matter what your skill level is, you can share your work. And you will get encouragement, praise, all that good stuff. So definitely make sure to join. Links for my favorite pens are in the description box below the video if you need them. Tell me in the comments what sorts of videos you'd like more of, and tell me what you're up to these days on your creative journeys. I would love to hear. Thank you for spending time with me. Go let your creative nature shine. May you all remain healthy and safe. See you soon. Bye now.